Good morning. Let us prepare for our invocation. Let us prepare for our invocation, please. Close our eyes. And let's go within, become still and quiet. Divine Spirit, with whom we are one, we acknowledge your presence in today's service. For we know that this is the day the Lord hath made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. We know that divine Spirit is flowing through us, in us, as us. And as we come together in this oneness of mind, we bless and give thanks for everyone present. You all here in the sanctuary, those on Zoom, and those on the phone. We bless and give thanks for all the participants in today's service, the ushers, musicians, practitioners, computer tech, and our minister, Reverend June. And as she brings to us today's message, we receive it with open minds, open hearts, that we may be uplifted, inspired, and empowered with those words of divine wisdom, knowledge, and truth. And so with that being said, I now decree this service to be in divine order. And if you are in agreement with me, please join me in saying, and so it is. Amen, amen, amen. Good morning, Miracle.
Good morning.
How's everybody doing? Good. Welcome. We are Miracle Center for Spiritual Living, located here at 2653 South Taylor Road, Cleveland Heights, Ohio. And I just say welcome to everyone. The God in me salutes the God in you. So welcome, one and all. Going to our program now. The monthly theme for this month is Embracing Self-Care. The weekly topic, balancing grief and joy. And our affirmation, I now receive all that no longer serves me. I now release all that no longer serves me, and I choose to embrace joy. Let me say that again. I now release all that no longer serves me, and I choose to embrace joy. So if you all would say that with me, I would appreciate it. I now release all that no longer serves me, and I choose to embrace joy. Thank you. Our monthly theme, to live your life to the fullest, self-care must be embraced in daily practice to help you remember who you are, to know who you are. You must be aware of the unlimited possibilities that can be unlocked when you harness the potential of your real beingness. Through self-awareness of the mind, the body, and the spirit, you realize that you are a perfect entity and that you have all that you need for unlimited success and unconditional love. Summary of today's topic. Grief is an unavoidable emotion we all go through at some point in our life. We do not only experience grief when we lose someone dear to us, other life situations can cause grief as well. To embrace self-care in trying times, it is imperative to understand how to surf through the water of grief to joy. And we have a song now, Joy. Our beloved Reverend June Clark.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much, Linda.
You're welcome.
Such a special blessing for us. Well, It's good to be here this morning. Good to be good on our. What day do we have our session? On Thursdays, we have our session going over Ernest Holmes' book, and it's called Keys to Wisdom. And the way we start is each of us just says how we feel at that moment before we start. And then the way we close, along with a benediction, is we give a word as to how we feel after the session. It's just an hour. And it's just so wonderful. So this morning, think of a word as to how you feel just right this moment before the service starts. I know, because I know, and the only thing you can really know about anything is if you've experienced it. So I say, I know that this subject, both, well, there's, let's see, 5 words here. Self-care is just so special and so important. Balancing grief and joy. And so I speak from my heart. I speak from Ernest Holmes. I speak from your heart because I know I'm not the only one that is balancing grief and joy and doing self-care. So good morning, all, and here we go now. So it starts on our bulletin. Linda beautifully read the beginning, the monthly theme, and then the summary of today's topic. And I want to go back to the topic and just want to, I'm just going to start. I'm going to start with the first sentence. Grief is an unavoidable emotion we all go through at some point in our life. And this is the one that I often think about. We do not only experience grief when we lose someone dear to us, other life situations can cause grief as well. Been there? It often comes up, the grief often comes up about the strangest things, strangest occurrences. And the grief is not based on the loss of a loved one. It's based on sometimes time, place, and thing. It's based on, I can't find, there were, I would say about 6 or 7 years that I could not find a ring that was my engagement ring and my wedding ring to my second husband. I could not find that ring, and it created a sense of grief within me. It was a loss. It was a treasure in more than just a financial, because it was lovely. It was a lovely ring. But just not to have that part of me and that experience any longer within my being able to touch it. I went back to California and going through my old cedar chest that I got as a gift from a young man that I didn't marry. You know, that was the thing. Sometimes they would give you well, anyway. I was going through opening that and looking in that with no emotions whatsoever, because not obviously, but that person did not exist any longer in my life. But there sat the box with the ring. So what did I do besides blubbering and weeping? Was rejoicing. There was joy in that. And so grief I just find it to be a fascinating word. It's a pleasure to be with someone who is in grief and be able to just be there. You don't have to say anything. They give you the privilege of seeing them at their, we'll use the word brokenness because we do break occasionally, and just to be there, just to empty your heart and your soul and your feelings and mostly your mouth, mostly the chatter that comes up sometime when we are just so in a place where the chatter comes out forced because we're uncomfortable, to just be with someone and just be still and just be there when they are in a grieving situation. Doesn't matter whether it's a ring, whether it's a person, the situation just brings out of us who are the one who is privileged to be of assistance to someone at this time, to just go within and know who you are and be safe and give your safety and your love to someone else. That I feel that is one of our strongest gifts that we can give to someone else. So let's get going here with how to be joyful in times of grief. It seems like that is an oxymoronic statement, joy and grief. They have to be totally different things. But again, I can only speak for myself. My first husband, we were married 25 and a half years. And for 9 of those 9 months of that last year we were together, he was experiencing cancer, which broke his spine, which meant that he was incapacitated in a nursing home for just a very short time. We took him home because the medical field said, oh, you know, give him a week or two. He lived 9 months. And I'm saying all this because it's an example of a judgment of grief. So he made his transition. At that time, I was not in religious science, and but I guess I had religious science principles. I can say they were already within me. I just hadn't peeked at them. They hadn't come to fore within my existence. And when he passed, the children and I made some decisions, and he had made some decisions before he left, because people sometimes don't understand how wise those who are experiencing the journey, no matter how long it is or how sudden it is, that those that are experiencing the journey of leaving this plane, they know an awful lot more than we know, and they know an awful lot more than we think they know. And he had proceeded to do all his honey-do lists that I had asked him to do, like, over the years, and made arrangements for these honey-do lists to be done, and was just a caring and loving individual to all of us, and wise enough, I say this because this is the truth, I make this short. He was a member at a church. It was a different faith. I was not going to church anywhere. And the minister at the church where he was came by once, and he had myself and his children, our children, to sit down, and he said, I don't want the minister to say anything except if he would like to say a prayer at my service. And I did the service, and I did it my way, because that's who he was. And he had all of this known to him, unbeknownst to us. He also let us know that he gave permission to be cremated and to let his brothers and sister know that that was his desire, not ours. So that's what I say about grief. He's grieving his leaving, but within that leavingness of his knowledge, his faith, his truth, he had the joy of assisting us on our next path. And it's sometimes hard. It was at that time to really see that. But as time progressed, we saw it. And we had a memorial service, and it was very upbeat, played a lot of the music he liked, et cetera, et cetera. People came, obviously, to the service, and someone said to me, never forget, you seem awfully, I don't know if they used the word joyful. I don't think they said happy, because we were happy. We were happy, but I don't think they said the word happy. And it was a critical conversation. Oh, you did this, and you wore purple, and you didn't wear black, and several things to the children and I. And you know what? We were so joyful that that man was so God-filled that he had the awareness to take care of his family before he passed. He had 9 months of not being able to move off the bed because his spine was broken. He had 9 months to prepare to do as he thought was good for his family. We had the grief. He had the grief. We had joy, and he had joy. So in saying that, how to be joyful in times of grief, consider the fun, the joy, the blessings, the happiness that was, and that also is yet to be. And did I say easy in there at all? Did not. Did not say. But I will say with ease and grace. Grace and ease. And then after moving a little further into life and becoming a religious science educated person, I could see that experience more and more joyfully, more and more with grief and joy mixed together. In the bulletin here, it says, joy comes from the heart. Your source of joy is within you, and that is so the truth. So it is always here, ready to be expressed through you. Grief is the other side of joy that we experience in this human journey, which when looked at straight in the face, can be the messenger you have been needing to catapult you into the next level of your greater yet to be. There is time. This is a June Stanford Clark, Reverend June statement. Don't let anybody tell you you ought to be finished with it. Because I said so. Don't let other people's opinion of you, how you ought to do anything, and I feel especially in grieving, tell you it's done and that you ought to move on. What does it say here? Your source of joy is within you. You, not someone else. I don't care if they're your kids. I don't care if they're your father, your mother, outsiders especially. Don't let anyone push you into thinking that how you are doing your experience of grief is in any way incorrect, because it is you and it is your beingness. The most important activity for you to do while grieving is to be with it. Don't try to push it away, ignore it, or pretend it is not there by getting yourself so busy that you have no time to share and discover what it is trying to tell you. I woke up one day and realized that I had totally gone so inward that I was not assisting my children in the loss of their father. Now, it took that push, whatever was blocking that situation. I can't tell you, I don't know. But be aware of those around you who also, what came up in my mind, and I said, dare I say it, and I'm going to say it. They also have touched the hem of the garment. They have touched and been touched by the person, we're talking about a person now, who has made their transition. We're not the only one. So be aware of those in your circle, especially close to you. And there are some people that loved my husband not the same way I did, not the way his children did, but they certainly loved him. He was a wonderful person. So be aware of your peripheral experiences and don't close people out. Allow them to be who they are and express their love. And if something is said that you don't agree with, you don't have to accept it. You can hear it without hurting them and just take it in, let it go in and let it come out. And perhaps that is their perfect release when they say what they say. So let's finish reading this. Trying to tell you, to propel you to be and to have your heart's desired. I went to the textbook, and on page 417, excuse me a minute, 417, the second paragraph here. To assert our individuality is to rise above the law of averages into that more highly specialized use of the law which brings freedom rather than bondage. Freedom rather than bondage. Joy in the place of grief and wholeness instead of sickness. We cannot do this unless we are first willing to judge not according to appearances. Jesus raised Lazarus. The appearance was that the man was dead. Jesus raised him stinking, as it says in the Bible, raised him up and brought him forth. In this judging not according to appearances, we are impressing the law with a new idea of ourselves, a less limited idea, and we are learning to think independently, of any existing circumstances. This is what is meant by entering the absolute. Go within, feel whatever it is. If it has the appearance of joy, feel the joy, because the joy was triggered by the occurrence which brought the grief. You cannot separate the two, but bring forth the joy. Going on, when you become aware of the gift behind grief, you can transform it into great work that demonstrates what brings joy to you and others. And I'm going to go to 135 in the textbook, but before I do that, I want to read to you another awareness for myself. Sometimes things come to you in the strangest of ways and are brought to us. I don't even remember who gave me the book. I do believe it was a book by Kubler-Ross, who was a psychologist who specialized in grief, but I'm not sure. But I will tell you what happened with this book that someone gave me to read about grief. I'm reading along just like I can read this pamphlet, this piece of paper. I can read the textbook. And all of a sudden, I'm reading, and in the middle of the typed page of the book, something caught my eye. I mean, I got on glasses, I could see something's wrong. They printed this book wrong. There's something off about this sentence. What it was, I will read to you what it was. Something is wrong. Something is wrong. And what it was, those three words were upside down in the middle of a paragraph. If you can envision that, or just try it, write something down and then turn it, as I did with my hand writing here. I turned it upside down. And it got my attention. It gets your attention. It wasn't even in bold print. It's in the line print of the rest of the reading. Something is wrong. That's been over, is it 30 years? I'm not even sure how long ago he died, to tell you the truth. That woke me up. Pay attention. Look at what you see that is bringing you good news, that is telling you something that you have missed, that you have not taken the time to see that something is wrong. It didn't say, go and hide in a corner anymore. It didn't say stop crying. It didn't say stop laughing. It didn't say how to do anything. All it said was something is wrong. And there was something that was wrong. And the reading, either Linda read or I read myself, don't stop and just become dead still. I do say, stop and let your shoulders relax. I do say, be aware, but just don't give up. Because, as I say, the person who has made their transition, much wiser than we who are still here. And when they leave this plane, I can't tell you. No one else can tell us, because no one else has truly come back to share with us what happens. What did Jesus say? He commended his spirit to God. Didn't say, everything's okay, just don't be fearful. But he did it with such grace and ease, made his transition, came back to show us that there is always life in some form. So grief is a very, very serious word. It's a very, very serious happening in our lives. So always check, because something is wrong, which is not a terrible thing to say. But if you continue to look at those words upside down in your life, the happenings upside down in your life, and you choose to ignore the clues, then something wrong will be in continuance in your life. So next section here, coexisting with joy and grief. These two terms seem extremely opposite to each other. Joy is a pleasant feeling, while grief is a deeply unpleasant emotion. Feeling, emotion, that could be debated. Feeling, emotion. Coexisting with these two extremes feel almost impossible. But they are possible. They are possible. I'm still here. I'm married again. That husband made his transition. I'm still here. Maybe not a good date, like, tell me about yourself. Well, sir, I'd like to tell you that 2 of my husbands have died. If he's not very strong, he's probably going to say, oh, it's nice meeting you. Come on, realistically. But, so, let me get back on track. See, I took myself way off the beam here. But it's true, it's true. Coexisting with these two extremes feel almost impossible. In trying times, when grief abounds, there might be sparks of joy, even though they don't last long. It's okay. What lasts a whole long, long time? My father used to say, what is that man drinning? He used to say drinning. What are they drinning about? What's so funny? Must be something wrong with him. Now that was his perspective, in a joking way. But folks will criticize you if you're too happy. They'll criticize you if you're too sad. And somewhere in between, you should not get a rat give. See, that slowed me down. A rat's patootie. Just don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. And even though it may seem impossible to experience it, now that doesn't make sense, so I'm going to read it together. In trying times when grief abounds, there might be sparks of joy, even though they don't last long, and even though it may seem impossible to experience it. You do. You may squelch it, you may not, but you do. And the joy, if you think about it, whenever that transition occurs, whether it's losing something, losing a human being from your life, losing an animal from your life, whatever it is that is passing to a different form of living, there is joy in that, because everything is God expressing itself. Now, what we do with that expression of God is entirely up to us. And it doesn't matter what other people say. Let me iterate that again. It does not matter what people think your timeline is, what they say, how they think you ought to be. Just do you. It does happen when we open our hearts to listen, to be with it, to care for it. Self-care, to care for it, and to love it 2. How can you not love something that is of the Father, that is God expressing itself? Love it. And if you love it and you care for it, it's going to be easier and easier to do just that. Not an easy task, yet not impossible, as your origin is joy. So the idea is for you to align with who you really are, to be able to do and feel the above great work that demonstrates what brings joy to you and others. Again, there's the others in your life. To you and others. So we're moving on here. It is natural to feel, let me see, I didn't do my 133. Sorry, got to go back to the textbook. 133, and we're moving all the way down to the 5th paragraph, and then on the way to one paragraph on 134. Okay. This is from The Nature of Being from the textbook. Great as the subconscious is, its tendency is set in motion by the conscious thought, and this is in italics, and in this lies the possibility of and the pathway to freedom. Earlier in one of the readings, the comment wasn't freedom, but in essence it was to be free. I can think of the word that comes up as saved, to be assisted, to move from one situation to another. Just move either by leaps and bounds or teeny tiny increments, but keep moving. Keep knowing, keep trusting, keep accepting that you can begin, if you don't understand, that you can begin to understand that joy and sorrow are intertwined, are two aspects of love. Freedom and bondage, sickness and health, poverty and riches, heaven with a capital H and hell with a capital H, good and bad, big and little, happiness and misery, peace and confusion, faith and fear, and all conditions which, this is in italics, appear to be opposites, are not really a result of the operation of, italics again, opposing powers. Can't be any opposing powers. There's only God. But, and this is in capital letters, are the way the one power is used. That's powerful. That page 133, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you have a book at home, write those numbers down and read that, because it not only applies to what we're talking about today, it applies to everything that goes on in your life. Because getting a yes answer to something doesn't mean that you're not going to grieve about it. Getting a no answer to something doesn't mean that you're not going to grieve about it. It just depends on what it is and how you want to accept the fact that this is the truth of what is going on and what is happening. It's all God. It's all an interpretation. It's all a personal evaluation, but it doesn't change that it's all God. We are bound because we are first free. That's the next paragraph below those capital letters. We are bound because we are first free, and the power which binds us is the only thing in the universe which can free us. Man already has within himself the key to freedom, but he must come to realize his relation to the whole with a W, capital W. This relationship is one of complete unity, and unity has a capital letter. I'm tight-chested within. Tight-chested within. And I know I put a name to that tightness. That's Mama, that's Daddy, that's Earl, that's Mike. And other family members who have gone before, some at birth, not for me, but for other people in my family to lose a child at birth. Tight. It's tight right here. But it's not tight enough to strangle me. It's not tight enough to let it be there very long. It's kind of like maybe they're in there, clapping, applauding that they are remembered. I don't know. Can't say. So let's move on. So that's joy. That's joy and grief, all wrapped up in a beautiful, I see a beautiful little blanket. I see bows. I see flowers. I see smiles. I see love. Down to, it is natural to feel guilty for feeling joy. Is it? No, I was correct the first time. It is natural to feel guilty for feeling joy during a grieving time. And that's sometimes what I think bothers other people more than it bothers the person who is really in the direct line of the grief as it is occurring. And as I said before, for myself personally, it was the joy of no more not being able to do your bucket list, which was to jump out of an airplane, trying to get the family to make arrangements to get out of this bed that he couldn't get out of because his spine was broken, getting us to do research on how to get him out of that bed, out of that house, and into a plane to let him do skydiving. Ridiculous? Sure kept him going for 9 months, kept us busy too. Seeing out how we could do this, at least having it in our hearts to want to do it, because it was wanting to be done. You know what I mean? So there is such joy when something is free from pain, or something, an animal is free from pain, a person, the children that were found in, I forget what country, one of the South American countries, 12 babies. 13 was the oldest, 40 days. And on our Thursday afternoon talk, we talked about how often 40 days comes up biblically. For 40 days they survived in the jungle. The oldest was 13, as I said. Now you take your own age, and you take, we'll just say, I think there were 14 children. Don't quote me on that, but we'll say it's 14 children. So we'll say our age, 14 of us, whatever age you are, and you were lost in the jungle for 40 days, do you think all of them would have survived, or all of us would have survived. It took a child and a group of children to do it. I can guarantee that they worked together, that they assisted one another, that they didn't fuss about not having their makeup. They didn't fuss about, well, I can't change my clothes because all of them are over there in the plane with the dead mother and all the other people. Children, the simplicity of God. You know, God just loves the little ones. They survived. There was grief amongst all of those who knew them. I had never heard of the incident until, I guess it was yesterday or this morning's news, yesterday's news, that they were rescued. Didn't know that they were in harm's way. Did they? They found some tapioca powder or something. They ate flowers and berries that grow all the time in their area. And a 13-year-old shepherded the rest of those children to survival. Of course, there were people out looking for them, but what was the clue that got them together? It was God ordained. And they got them out. And they'll be in a hospital for 2 or 3 months. And we pray that that assists them in their future growth and ability to live a good life. There are things that are unbeknownst to us in our lives, and they are God ordained. And I'm not going to read this paragraph, but look at the title of the poem. Everything is going to be all right. Everything is going to be all right. And we have the capacity to know that. We have the capacity to do that with, again, grace and ease. We can have joy. We can have grief. It's going to be a part of who we are. It's what we do with anything that happens with our lives that makes it worthy to continue to be alive. And I'm going to have Laverne come up and do our reading, and then we will have a song.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So often we find ourselves saying things like, you are a spiritual being having a human experience, or you have a body, but you are not your body. While those aren't entirely incorrect, they suggest a spiritual understanding which denies the worth, value, and spiritual nature of the body. Your body, my body, everyone's body is the temple of the divine right here and right now, showing up as uniquely as possible so that the one can express its creativity and experience this reality. Since there is no separation, the body is not somehow separate from God or from the spiritual. It is simply another glorious aspect of the wholeness of life. We're not going to get closer to God by denying the goodness and greatness of a whole aspect of it. Learning to love the body we have right now offers us a path to love and live in the present. Whatever your body is like, it is miraculous. Do you ever pause to think about all the magical and magnificent processes happening in your body all at the same time without you even noticing it? Cells are dividing and replacing one another, turning your food into energy, Your entire blood supply swirls around the whole of you several times per minute. Your kidneys and liver are filtering your blood. Your brain is floating between your ears, and here you are. Your awareness, intention, thoughts, and feelings exist in this complex and truly divine casing. Your body does wonderful things for you. It houses your consciousness. It allows you to feel pleasure, smell scents, taste tastes. It lets you navigate the world. It lets you experience God in all its worldly variety. God is as much in the body as it is in the heart. And by honoring and loving our bodies, we have a richer experience of the divine. This comes from, you can have radical self-love because you are already radical self-love, by Sonia Renee Taylor. The body is not an apology, the power of radical self-love. And so it is.
Thank you, Laverne. And with the reading, and the month has already started. It's Pride Month for, I'm not begin to tell you all the letters of the communities that have become aware of who they are and are experiencing the goodness and glory of God through their own personal selves. So I send along a glorious yes to Pride Month, and now we're going to have a song about joy again. Oh, my goodness, my goodness, my goodness. Oh, it's time for us to just focus on, if we say joy, that's enough to say, God, we hear you, we got you, we know you, we recognize you, you are who we are. We've got the first two steps of treatment already covered. Joy. God is joy. God is grief. God is perfect as it unfolds in our lives, as us. We are one with it. Not only those within the sound of my voice, but every single thing in this universal allness is of the oneness of and as God. There is nothing that is not of God. So therefore, because we are unified, we are the oneness. Speak your word as to what it is that your beautiful, wonderful heart desires. Know that it is heard. Know that it is understood, because whatever is in your mind and on your mind is of God. There is peace and joy and harmony and love and health and knowledge. I mean, those are words that we take for granted because it is so easy to recognize and to know the goodness, the allness, the oneness of who you are. I know this is true for each and every individual on this planet. Now, the recognition of all of this peace and love and joy and wonderment and peace and harmony and grace and ease may not be recognized, but it does not alter the fact that it is the truth. And as we each come to our individualized expression of truth, whether it be in the issue or around the circumstances of grief, whether it be around the circumstances of self-care, of health, of recognition of a person's different lifestyle or difference in the way that one decides to just be, because they're already whole, they're already perfect, they're already complete. Some of us recognize that, some of us do not. But until we all do, we pray and we hold one another in high esteem and self-love and self-care. And there's enough of us that know this truth that we give it away. And there will be a time that the perfection of God is recognized across this nation, across races, across political parties, across all the wonderful essence and truth of God. We won't say it's coming because it's here. It's now. Do our wonderful, wonderful assistive prayer throughout the universe for each and every being, sentient being, and any being that there is. Bless it as we bless this morning, and we have blessed this morning, as we continue to bless through our minds, through our hearts, through our words, through our deeds, through our seeing, through our hearing. We are blessed, and we continue to give it away. And be thankful that you are held in the arms and the heart of God, and you know it. I bless this morning, I bless every breath that we are each taking and going to take, each thought, each prayer, each one of us who have experienced this wonderful side of life as life. And we bless everyone that we know or don't know who has experienced going to the other side, whatever it be. It must be God, it must be joy, it must be perfect. So let us remember those that we have, in essence, said so long to on the physical side. Just bless them. Bless them by being the highest and the best person that we can. And we continue this prayer throughout the universal allness. And we know that God is, and that God thrives, and God is all there is. We give thanks for this, and together we say, and so it is. Amen and amen. So I'm going to have our wonderful pulpit assistant come back up, Linda Jones, and I bless you.
Thank you, Reverend June. I want to thank you for that beautiful, emotional message. Thank you for sharing your story with us about grief and joy, and for mentioning the names that you did from your family. So I just want to say thank you. Let's give Reverend June a hand for that message. Thank you so much. And now, the ushers are already coming forward. So you want me to do the meditation?
You can go ahead.
Oh, okay. And now we'll prepare for our benediction. Let's just become quiet and go within. Close our eyes, become centered. Father, Mother God, I give thanks for this morning's message, for this service. Thanks to everyone present here in the sanctuary, on Zoom, on the phone. We give thanks for our messenger, Reverend June Clark, and the message being self-care balancing grief and joy. We know that this message has been a blessing to each and every one of us. It has touched our spirits, our minds, and our hearts. And that the words spoken will resonate with us deep within our soul and our spirit. And that as we go forth from this place, as we leave this place, we can find that joy in our time of grief. So as we leave now, we know that we go forth knowing that we all are divinely guided, guarded, protected, and blessed. And if you are in agreement with me, please join me in saying, and so it is. Amen. So we have a couple of announcements. And the first one being, it's a very, very special announcement, special event that we have coming up next Sunday, Father's Day. We're going to celebrate our Father's Day service. We'll have a special guest choir singing at 11 a.m. The United Temple Church, the Temple. Bishop Philip Jones is their minister. So we're asking everyone to come out and support that. You all here in the sanctuary, bring family, bring friends, those on Zoom and on the phone, and make this a very, very special event and treat for us all. And we're looking forward to the church and the family.
Arnie and Langston and his mom and dad are part of that choir.
Oh, okay. Arnie, Langston, you all remember Langston? Langston's mom and dad, they're all part of that church.
That choir.
That choir, I'm sorry. So they'll be joining us here next week. So we certainly look forward to that. And also, anything else? Okay. And also, we still have the group discussion, Keys to Wisdom, that we meet every Thursday from 1:30 to 2:30. And if you're not doing anything at that time next Thursday, join us. We have the information on the bulletin how to join in on the Zoom and on the phone. So we have quite a discussion, and I'm personally in the class, and I certainly enjoy it. Me personally, I'm learning so much. I'm expanding my consciousness, and it's growing me more and more. So it's a very wonderful class. And we can get rather lively sometimes, especially this past Thursday. So it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of learning, and it's just great. So we ask you all to join us on Thursdays if you can, 1:30 to 2:30. And our podcast, we ask you to listen to those also. And the information is on the bulletin for that also.
And thank you, Susie, for our new newsletter.
And thank you, Susie, for our new newsletter. It's wonderful. Very nice. Thank you, Susie.
I think that's it.
Is that it? Okay. So now we can circle up for the peace song. That'll be it. Thank you, everyone, for coming. God bless you.